Welcome to the EarthWorks podcast, where our team will share the jargon of carbon with many of the turf friends we've met over the past 35 years.
Hi, everybody. This is Joel Simmons, and welcome back to another EarthWorks podcast. Today, I have Zac Ramey with me. I didn't say that right, did I? It's Ramey, isn't it?
Ramey, yeah.
I sorry about that, Zac. And I'll say this in full disclosure: we only just met a week ago, right? For the first time at Soil First Academy that we did in Greenville, and I love this story, Zac. I mean, I've been telling everybody. I've even used some of your stuff at an academy I did this current week. But many of you guys have seen, certainly in Turf Talks and other things that I've done. One of my favorite slides in the podcast in the EarthWorks Academy is a slide that I call the Thatch Cake. And I showed this, and then at break, Zac came up to me and says, "Hey, you got to see this." And he pulled up the sample of what you inherited, I guess. At the first, when you first got to the Country Club of Spartanburg. And I just couldn't. I mean, I was really kind of taken by it. I've seen that before, but what you showed me was so exact to what we were talking about in the story. And my first question is, and we'll get into this a little bit, but my first question is, when you took the job, did you not see that profile?
Well, I saw the profile. I didn't think it was as bad as it actually was.
Yeah. Now
until I got there. And then I realized, what did I get into?
It's funny. I say this with, tongue in cheek and just trying to be funny, but I say this a lot is that, when you see a profile like this and just to explain what we're talking about, the Thatch Cake, and I don't know if, Michael, our editor, can post this, but the Thatch Cake is simply a very layered profile. So one of my students from Rutgers came to me many, many years ago and said, "I just took a job," and we went over and we pulled the profile, and it was the picture that I have, quite honestly, Zac, was a lot worse than yours, thank goodness. But it was basically generated from a lot of over application of synthetic fertilizer, creating a layer of thatch, very lignous, undigested, unpenetrable organic matter, and then a layer of top dressing, and then more thatch, and then more top dressing. So it literally looks like a layered cake. And I've said this many times in my academies. If you're out there looking for a job, carry a profiler with you, because, like I said, how many? What you tell me? It took you 4 years to kind of break through all this stuff.
Yeah, it took us about 3.5 to really get it under control. And then from then until now, so almost 4 years, just dialing everything in and getting it to where we need to go.
Let me go back a little bit and introduce you properly, and I apologize, but I like I said, I wanted to make sure everybody understood. But I was so taken by the conversation last week at the academy. So you are at the Country Club of Spartanburg in Spartanburg, South Carolina. You've been there now for 7 years, and you are the Director of Agronomy. Tell me what your background is. You and I went through it a little bit before, but before coming to Spartanburg, where were you?
So I was born and raised in North Carolina, about 35 minutes west of Charlotte, in a little town called Kings Mountain.
I know Kings Mountain. I think I've been in Kings Mountain.
Yeah, Kings Mountain, 85 business, or Interstate 85 goes right through it. So
maybe that's why I've been in it. Yeah,
you can't go from Greenville to Charlotte without going through Kings. But went to Clemson, kind of followed in the family footsteps there. And
the family footsteps was what? Business, you said.
Well, it's funny. You follow in the family footsteps to go to Clemson, and you go to an ag school, but you major in business, which is what I did. So decided I want to do what?
Was there a family business, or was it just that they all went to Clemson?
Well, I think it was that they all went to Clemson. There were multiple different types of family businesses going on, but I was told from a young age, "Hey, you're going to Clemson." So
you didn't have a choice.
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
My blood runs orange.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got orange in the blood.
That's right. And so went to Clemson, majored in business, actually sport management, have a minor in business administration, and decided my senior year that I wanted to be a golf course superintendent. And it was a little late to change at that point.
Why on earth would you want to do that, for God's sake?
Well, you do it for a summer job, and it gets in your veins, and you really enjoy being outside, and you decide you don't want to sit behind a desk for the rest of your life.
That orange blood turned green, didn't it?
It definitely turned green.
What was the idea of the sports management degree? I mean, you went to school for business and sport. What did you want to be? Something in
So sport management, I thought I wanted to do something in athletics, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do in athletics. Sport management to me was going to be the gateway into that to figure it out. One of the really cool things that I did get to do when I was an undergraduate at Clemson is I was the actual student equipment manager on the baseball team for my junior and senior year.
That's cool.
That was a lot of fun. Clemson went to Omaha in 2006. I got to go to that, so it was a lot of fun to get to do that. And
any pros come out of there?
Yes, there were 3 pros on that team in
Wow.
2006, and there were 2 the next year in 07. So interesting to be around those guys. Great guys.
I bet. Were you an athlete in high school?
I did. I was a big athlete. Played a lot of different sports, but really started to focus on golf in high school.
Oh, so you were playing in high school too. Good.
I did play golf in high school. I actually played golf my freshman year of college.
On the golf team?
Not at Clemson.
Okay. But you were playing golf. Yeah.
I played at a different college and then transferred to Clemson and put my clubs down at that point.
You didn't think you'd make the Clemson team?
There was no not thinking. I knew I wouldn't make the team.
I hear you.
And so, but from Clemson, so actually started my master's degree in turf grass on the advice of a summer internship with the golf course superintendent at Don Garrett at the Walker course at Clemson University, and started my master's in turf with Dr. Burt McCarty at Clemson. And
you told me that last week, I think.
Yeah. I did. That was, I can tell you, going from business to science was a big change. Good
or bad?
Very difficult. I won't say good or bad.
The science was harder?
Science was very difficult.
Yeah.
And so through the course of that semester and talking to Dr. McCarty, realized, let's just go back and get a 2-year degree in turf, which is what I did at Catawba Valley Community College. Followed that up, then started in the industry actually as an assistant at Thornblade Club in Greer, South Carolina for almost 5 years. And then my first superintendent's job was at Holly Tree Country Club in Simpsonville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I was there for 4.5 years and have been at Spartanburg since then.
So you were only 5 years as an assistant and you got a job as a super. What year was it?
Do what? I'm sorry.
What year? What year did you get to Holly Tree?
2014.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So February of 2014.
So I'm a little confused here. So you finished your business degree and then you started a master's degree, but you chose not to finish that. You went to get a 2-year degree.
Yeah, I did. That is correct.
And look at you. I mean, 4 years later, you're a golf course superintendent.
Well, about 5, but yeah, close enough.
5 years later, I'll give you a year, but that's pretty impressive, dude. I mean, that's the American dream in the turf industry is, a couple of 5 years, you're running the show, and it was a 2-year turf degree, which is good.
And it's been a lot of fun since then. But I had some really good mentors along the way to help me get in that position.
Where was your first experience on the golf course itself?
So my first experience as a summer job, this is what really kind of made me change my thinking in college. Between my junior and senior year, I worked for a summer at a golf course in Shelby, North Carolina called Cleveland Country Club for a superintendent that's still one of my really good friends to this day. And
who's that?
His name is Scott MacArthur. He's in Charlotte now at a course there. And Scott was he was very difficult to work for, very young, very difficult, very driven. But it really made me realize how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I may not have been at work on time every day. I can promise you that.
How old were you?
Let's see. Somewhere between junior and senior year, I was 21.
Oh, this is college.
22. Yeah.
Not high school. This is college. Okay.
This is college. And so I at that point was not an early riser. I can assure you of that.
Not many people at that age are.
No. And
especially college.
I still joke with Scott and tell him the only reason he didn't fire me that summer was because he couldn't find any help that was better.
And that's probably exactly true, unfortunately.
I'm sure.
Yeah. But he pushed you, I guess.
He very much pushed me. And I actually went to work for him the next summer before I started my graduate degree.
So you're a glutton for punishment. Is that what you're saying?
I was a definite glutton for punishment. And so, it was, it was a lot of fun, very difficult, a lot of long days. They still had bent grass then.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Resources may not have been what other places were, so there was a lot of hose dragging.
No resources and bent grass. That sounds like a great
Absolutely.
place to be for the summer in the middle of
Absolutely. You know, it's crazy that
Carolinas.
the summer after I leave, they convert to
Of
Bermuda grass.
course, that's how it always happens.
That's right.
What was great about it? What did you love about that internship with Scott? I mean, it sounds like you really got the bug that summer, right?
I did. I did. You know, I just love for one thing, the instant gratification of being at work
Yeah.
on the golf course. You go mow fairways, or you go mow tees, or you mow greens, or you do a project and you see that work come to fruition, and it's just that passion for it. And then getting to watch the sunrise go every day, and there were a lot of times I watched the sun go down, not by work, but by choice, and playing golf at that point, in the evenings. And
Yeah.
so it hit me. I loved it, and realized, hey, this is my dream. This is what I want to do.
So instant gratification on a golf course, you mow the fairways and it looks fantastic right after you do it. But you come in the next day and it looks like crap and you got to mow it again. I mean, isn't the instant gratification kind of taken away at that point? I mean, you
Well,
got
it
to keep.
depends on how much growth regulator you have on 'em.
Oh, that's truth. But it's like, you fix it, it breaks, you fix it, it breaks. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I've had this same conversation with literally thousands of guys that got into the business. And I think this is typically the pathway is, you play golf in high school and you kind of get that bug. And then, typically, and I'm willing to bet you probably said the same thing. There's actually a career in this. I mean, this
All
is
right.
actually a career path. I could make a living and a good life out of this. And you found that out pretty quickly, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't believe that there was a career for this.
Right.
Because you're
Exactly.
right, playing golf, and I will tell you, I grew up. My parents had property growing up, and so I was constantly on machines, tractors or skid steers, or
Cool.
doing stuff,
So you got that bug too.
yeah, absolutely. So when I realized that, hey, you can go work on a golf course and run all that great equipment,
Yeah.
this is a dream come true.
Every little boy's dream is being able to play with big tractors all the time, right? And you got to do that.
Absolutely.
And then you, of course, had to fix them, and then you had to jerry rig them and make them work, even though there's one wheel missing or whatever it might be. Which, what was the hardest thing about that summer? I mean, there had to be something that really kind of. I mean, was there at any point during that first summer when you got in there with Scott that you said, "Wow, maybe this isn't"? I mean, and I say that because I think a lot of guys will send their sons out to work in the golf course with the hope and expectation that they hate it, so they don't do it. But obviously, you didn't get that. Was there anything though that ever questioned your thought process as to maybe this isn't where I want to be?
So I think, and being athletic growing up, and being outside all the time, the weather didn't bother me. That was not it. The early mornings, that was one I despise
Just
waking up
getting
early.
up, yeah,
Yes, and it was just that constant of, if we have to be there at 6 a.m.
yeah. You have
Uh,
to
it,
get. You
it,
were getting up at 5. How long did it take you until that became second nature?
I think until I became a full-time assistant.
So there was a few years
Yeah,
that they got you to.
it was something that I
Yeah.
still did not enjoy doing.
And I can
And
tell you from years and years of experience that when you get to be an older gentleman and you're ready to retire, after you leave the industry, you will continue to get up at 4 in the morning,
oh,
or at least very early, and that'll be your life for the rest of your life.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I actually love getting up early now.
Yeah,
I love it. My wife, she does not like it when I get up early,
of
which is
course
every
not.
day.
Yeah.
And so when I'm off on a weekend, and don't even set the alarm, but inadvertently I wake up at 4 o'clock, and she's like, "What are you doing? It's
Oh, that's funny.
4 a.m." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But,
That's my
you know,
my cycle. There's a theory, and it's been pretty popular, but there's a common theory now that's been going around that says getting up at 5 in the morning is really extremely beneficial to the human body.
Right.
It has to do with the circadian cycle, or, the rhythm of how we live. But there's a lot of theory about, by getting up and watching the sunrise every day, it creates a calmness to you. But, I mean, to a T, and I get up early enough to usually see the sunrise. I love that time of day. And I think most superintendents will say the same thing. It's like, best part of being a super is being out there. Nobody's around. The sun's coming up. It's the most beautiful time of day. I might have a jacket on. It's a great temperature. It's not, especially where you are in that, god awful part of the world from a weather standpoint. You're not dealing with the humidity at 5 in the morning. So it's a whole new world out there.
It's still there sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's great. And getting up early, I love it. One of the things I do when I get up is I get up and work out first thing. And
there you go.
And so it's just that calming effect and get the day kicked off and going.
Yeah. So, what was one of the first things? What kind of things did you learn that first year? I mean, what was something that you still carry with you from from an agronomic or a cultural practice standpoint? I mean, you must have learned an awful lot that first summer.
Yeah, there was a whole lot to learn. We were really a small operation.
Yeah.
I think we had 6 or 7 guys on the crew, and you're doing an entire golf course, so there was a lot of stuff to do, and the guys had to learn quickly on the fly. Learning how to mow greens. At that point, It was a triplex. They didn't walk mow, but triplex greens or triplex tees or mow fairways. I would say the biggest takeaway for me that first summer was truly learning how to hand water bent grass in the Southeast.
Really?
And keep it alive. Yeah. I mean, this was before the advent of big fans. And this was 2006. And so you didn't have the big fans were just coming into existence at that point. And so you had a couple little like 22-inch fans that threw 10 feet and you didn't even feel them on the green.
Are these soil greens?
A lot of them were modified, just
kind
of native soil, kind of a little bit of modification. So it was all about moisture management. It was key.
So how did you learn that? Did Scott teach you that? Did somebody else?
Scott taught us that. Scott taught us that. And we didn't have moisture meters. It was you go out, and if you physically see it wilting, hey, guess what? You can step on it and the plant's purple or it's silver, and you step on it and it turns white. Okay, it's under stress.
Yeah.
Or take a moisture meter, or not moisture meter, but take a probe out and stick a probe in and
feel it
and feel the moisture level, see where it's dry. And then, it was don't overwater, don't underwater. Keep it, give it what it needs, and come back and get and hit it again the next time. And so it was very eye-opening. And usually it was only 2 of us who were dragging hoses, doing that all afternoon. And we'd start right
and
after
you were
lunch.
an intern? You were the first year and you're pulling hoses?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Who was with you? Was it somebody experienced on the property?
So Scott was either there with us dragging a hose with myself, or it was the assistant Lee that was doing it.
So you had somebody that had some experience. So I asked this question on the podcast a lot. I think it's one of the most important questions in golf. How do you learn how to water? I mean, there's a level of intuitiveness. How did you know that you weren't overwatering?
I don't know. It's hard to quantify that and put it into words of how do you know that you're not overwatering. I think the way it was best explained to me is don't. Well, let me back up and let me try to think about this. I was taught by Scott and then Randy Long, who I worked for at Thornblade, with bent grass, it is absolutely imperative to keep the plant on the drier side, because you can always add water, but once you
can
get
always
it
add it,
water,
you can't take it away.
Cannot take it away.
Yeah.
And so it was just ingrained into us. Just give it a little water and then go and come back and add a little more if it needs it. Just keep it from wilting anymore at that point and then go. And so that may be a little different than other guys. And we teach our guys that, though, even at Spartanburg, and we have dedicated guys who have been on these greens since they were built in 2008 and renovated then. But still, we have to refresh them every single year with moisture meters now.
Even the experienced guys.
Oh, absolutely. Guys, do not overwater these greens. Just give it enough, and we can always come back and add more.
So, I mean, again, that, that, like you said, it's not an easy answer, and I'm not expecting you to have the definitive answer. But now that you're a superintendent, you got young guys coming in. That has to be the hardest thing to teach. I mean, you can teach a guy how to mow straight lines and and change cups and all those things. Those are fairly mechanical, but man, water is such an art, and it's so important to the process that we all live and die by. How do you teach it?
I really don't know. I can't
I
give
don't know
you
that anybody can answer this
a
question.
quantifiable answer.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, Joe. I think that the modern technologies have made it so much easier now
Yeah, I agree.
through moisture meters and through fans and through sub air or the tools and the aids that you can use in greens management or even whatever you're watering.
Yeah.
And modern chemistries or new products, have made it better as far as different wetting agents and what they're designed to do.
Yeah.
And soil amendments
Yeah.
with moisture management. And so I think there's a lot of factors that go into it. And then really learning your golf course is key as well.
Yeah. Are you using meters now?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you have in greens meters or just handhelds?
No, we have handheld. I've done the in greens meters. Didn't get the data that I wanted out of them.
Yeah.
And then I forgot that they were in the greens one time when we were airifying, so that didn't last very long.
Oh, that's a good way to ruin them.
That's right.
Oops.
Yeah.
All right, let me roll right into this because and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the impression I got, and like I said, I was so taken by our first meeting, that you really have gotten to understand biological soil management, and clearly, I mean, again, I didn't really finish this whole story. You showed me your thatch cake. That layer. I mean, I tried to count them the other day. It must have been like 6 or 7 layers. So you can, that your predecessor, and I mean no criticism here, but there was a lot of urea or synthetic fertilizer going on and a lot of top dressing, and I can only imagine what those were like when you first got in. But you've changed them, and the profile today is what I considered the good organic matter profile. Was that all by design? I mean, were you learning the whole concepts of biological soil management? Was that something? It sounded as though you kind of had that in your portfolio of agronomy.
Yeah, absolutely. I was learning it, and I still am to this day. I mean,
Good.
taking your class last week was very interesting, and learned a lot of new stuff. I will say the biggest component of that and what got me on that road or led me down that road was in my first job at Holly Tree. Those greens were very different. They were built on old river sand, so you'd have some sand that had huge spaces in it.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually found big pieces of rock, 3-4 inch pieces of rock in those greens.
Really? How far down? Got to be deeper than the air fire.
They were 8 to 9 inches down.
Yeah. Okay. So you weren't hitting him with an air fire, but
no. Well, we deep tined one time and he hit.
And that's where you hit him.
That's right.
That's
and
usually
so,
how you find stuff buried. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. But in those greens, and so you had the large pore spaces, and then you had silt mixed in, and so you had tiny pore spaces, and so my last 2 years there, one of my reps that I really trusted. And this was a big thing that he preaches with biological soil management. And his thing is if you get your soils right, you're going to have good turf.
Yeah.
And
I've heard that.
Yeah. Imagine that. And so we started down that pathway, and I never really got to truly finish it at Holly Tree or to change it. But at Spartanburg, the first meeting that he's there with me, we're on the greens, and I stick a profiler in and pull it out, and he looks at it and he just
saw the thatch cake.
Yeah, he said, "Well, you got your work cut out for you."
Yeah, you might not have wanted to take this job there, Zach.
And there were actually 10 layers on that picture.
Really? Is that? Yeah. I didn't see. I was trying to count. I was trying to remember, but it was that big. Huh?
That was 10. Yeah. So what that was, from best that I could figure out, is those are A1, A4 greens.
Yeah. Which thatch, by the way. Yeah.
Heavy thatch producer. They're only being airified once a year with 3/8 inch coring tines.
Oh wow.
And that was every airification.
Same depth, same everything every time.
Every time.
Oh boy. How long?
So
how many years?
You had
How old
10.
were they? Okay, they were 10
They were
years. You
10
said
years old
that.
when I
Sorry.
got there.
Yeah.
So, they were rebuilt in 2008. I started in 2018. There you go.
Wow, there you go. And you had 10 layers. Well, there
10
you go.
layers.
And it's like a tree, right? You can
Right.
find out how old it is by the layers.
Yep. And
That's
so,
really this. I mean, it's the same analogy. If you think about it, you grow that thatch layer and then you're trying to work through by top dressing. So he was obviously heavily top dressing,
right.
and
And,
there you have it.
and, you know, I know him still to this day, that superintendent. He retired. Great guy. He was there 32 years. It was just a very old school way of managing.
Yeah, and I mean, I hear you, and I mean no criticism, and I'm certainly not trying to be flippant about this, but this is what we were taught. I mean, this is what everybody was taught, and and so this is what we saw. I mean, when I got into the business, we saw this all over, and that's I mean, my crazy business partner Jerry Brunetti really kind of showed me the way and ruined my life and made me this freak of nature that wants to talk about chicken poop and changing the profile, and it's like going against everybody's understanding. But when you start to see, you saw it. So walk me through this. So you're there in 2018. You see 10 layers. You panic a little bit, I'm assuming. And what plans did you guys put into place to start making the change that I mean, you made a beautiful change. I mean, again, I think I told you this the other day. I showed this to our guys here, the agronomists here at EarthWorks, and everybody got all excited. And it's like, it's kind of weird that we get excited over simple things. But I mean, it's such a great testimony as to what you did. And what you did was build soil. You built soil.
Right.
But how did you do it?
So first and foremost, we started soil testing, and I had nothing to back up on those greens.
Were there soil tests there?
I didn't find any.
Okay.
And I'm not saying they hadn't been.
I'm sure there were, but yeah, I mean, they could have been anywhere.
I just didn't see them,
Right,
or
that's
couldn't
right.
find them.
That's right.
So we started soil testing, and we wanted to see where we were deficient or where we were excessive and what needed to be done first and foremost. And the second thing is, my rep, his name's Alan McCurry, great guy. And Alan said, you're going to have to start aerifying. Like there's no question. You're going to have to get this stuff out. You're going to have to get clean material in. And don't be surprised if these greens, and he didn't come right out and say this, but basically the gist of it was, don't be surprised if they go backwards before they start going forwards.
Yeah. You're changing everything.
And so I went to my GM at the time, who was 2 years newer than I was. He started in June of 2018. I went to him, my green committee chair, and our board, and said, I want you to be aware. This is what we're going to have to do. This is the plan of aerification, heavy aerifications, top dressing, whatever we can do to attack this through soil testing, remediation, and then we're going to move forward. But you're going to get a lot of complaints as this process is going on. And for 3 years, the recommendation is 20% surface displacement a year.
Yeah.
And we were attacking and doing 30.
Wow.
It was I still have superintendent buddies now that laugh and go, your members are so accustomed to seeing holes in greens that if they play and there's not holes, they go, well, what's wrong?
What happened? Why aren't you doing your job, dude?
And but that, and then we got on testing our irrigation water all the time.
Good.
To see, because that is the most basic component of those greens. That's what's being put on those greens all the time.
It's the single largest input on the golf.
Right.
From a nutrient standpoint, there's nutrients in your water. Biggest single input is the irrigation water.
And so doing that and seeing where our water was, what our total dissolved salts were, what we're high in, bicarbs,
Yeah. Sodium?
And no, we're low sodium.
Good. So the water's fairly clean.
It is deemed ultra pure. Our TDS is between 70 and 80 parts per million.
Were you stripping?
Very stripping.
Okay, so it's actually taking nutrients out of your soil.
Absolutely. So we're taking K out.
Yeah.
And replacing
a lot of other things too.
And so as that K comes out, sodium is going in.
Yeah, right, exactly. And it doesn't take a lot of sodium to throw that sodium potassium ratio off.
It does
So,
not.
yeah, you're taking it out, and then a little bit of sodium coming back is enough to get you sodium induced will.
So one thing that we started doing to really change all that and affect it is every 28 days we're doing gypsum,
Good.
and then we come back 2 weeks after gypsum, still on 28-day schedule, but they're alternating biweekly. We're coming back with potassium.
Okay.
So we're doing, gypsum, potassium, and we know that that's what we're trying to flush the salts out, the sodium out, and then we're trying to rebuild that
Replace
calcium.
it
I mean
with potassium.
that potassium in the profile in the colloid, and our calcium was a little off when I first got there. Magnesium was high. We had to amend that. pHs are still to this day a little high. I don't worry about too much.
Because of magnesium?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're up. pHs are around 6, 9, 7.
That's okay.
So we don't really focus on that too much.
Yeah.
And really though, it has been the attacking that organic mat and those layers has been our main focus, and changing that. In your class last week, Joel, you talked about molasses.
Yeah.
And we don't spray molasses by itself, but we spray it with other products. But we use it.
Yeah.
And I have guys that go, "Why do you use molasses?" And I'm like, "Look, it works. There's research proving that it works. But we're trying to do what?
What's it doing?
It's increasing microbial activity.
Yeah,
It's food
it's
for
feeding
them
the
to,
bugs. It's quick energy. It's the fastest energy you're going to get.
and so we do that, and and we do soil sprays with stuff to help stimulate them, to encourage them,
Yeah.
and their activity.
Where did that mindset come from for you? The whole talk, trying to feed microbes. How did you get down that road?
And so that came from Alan McCurry, my rep.
Okay.
And it was more or less with him. We need to get not just the thatch out and the organic matter out and amended, but we need to feed the microbes, and we need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we do is every time we aerify, and you and I talked about this last week, we use profile, and you talked about Ecolite.
Yep.
But we use profile, and we blend.
I'm biased, so pay no attention. But
I know.
But what you're trying to do is create a physical, entity that allows air movement, right?
Absolutely. And so we're blending profile, we're blending humates, and we're blending, at the time we were blending a high calcium source to change that and get that calcium load up in the soils.
And that would have driven off your magnesium, which would have helped.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is good.
And so we've got calcium balanced out now. And
are you applying as much now as you were then, 6 years ago? Or
nah, it's interesting.
You're not doing much of anything.
Yeah. It's amazing when you get your soils right.
Yeah, I know. Kind of sucks for me. I'm trying to sell you some stuff, and
I know
I keep telling you to balance your soils, and I'm selling you less crap, and it's like, oh my God, what an idiot I am.
It's just amazing though how efficient the soils, or how efficient soils make the plants efficient. When I first got there, I did find for the logbook for chemical or fertility apps. And my first couple of years, I mean, these greens just had to be fed all the time. It really
with those 10 layers, there was no life in them. You had to feed them all the time.
It was amazing. My first year, we put out over 6 pounds of nitrogen.
Oh, well, and did you create number 11, layer 11?
And I'm sitting there going, here we are, we're aerifying, we're doing 30% surface displacement, and yet here we're having to put this much down. Yeah. So we're not doing ourselves any favors.
Well, yeah, and I think I said this last week when we were at the academy, but that to me as an agronomist who, again, talking to somebody who I may never have met before from 3,000 miles away, I hear that story, and it's clearly a poor biology. I mean, that's biological soil management right there. If you have to be pushing that much in, that's because microbial activity can't keep up with the digestion, the breakdown of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And 10 layers of thatch, you're not going to have much biology, dude. So,
No, no, not at all. And so we've gone down. Obviously, we've decreased that every year, and now we're at around 2.5 pounds of it.
yeah, that's beautiful. That's a great, and that's how many years again?
It's 6.5, almost 7.
Yeah. So it took a couple of years. I mean, that's, I say, I said that I think the other day, but it's a great sales pitch. You can imagine for anybody coming in and saying, "Hey, I can help fix your problem in, 5 years." Great, get out, but so talk. Let's go back to the original aerification. So you're trying to displace 30%. You're doing it with big tines, little tines, deep tine. I mean, what was the strategy then? What were you physically doing from an aerification standpoint each time you went out? You had to be mixing and matching a lot of stuff, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we were doing tons of stuff, trying to figure out what worked and what
was the
didn't.
best thing. Yeah.
And the first true aerification that I did on the greens, it took them a long time to heal because it was so aggressive.
And because you didn't have biology.
No, absolutely. Well, they had they had no roots, no density.
Yeah, of course not.
And they're just ripping up everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, they must have loved you. They must have absolutely loved you at the course.
Oh, they loved it.
Who's this new guy, and what the hell's he doing here, for God's sake?
Oh, I can promise you, they were ready to get rid of me.
Yeah. Were you questioning yourself at any point in this process?
Absolutely, 100%.
I would think so.
I mean,
I would have.
One thing about myself is I am very, I don't want to use the word stubborn, but I'm very resolute. And so I obviously I have a belief in myself.
Good.
And I knew that it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time.
So you have a level of intuitiveness, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was also, it got to the point about 2.5 to 3 years in where I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna see this through.
Oh, wow. Really? And you're 2.5 years in.
I'm 2.5 years in. I had my third year. We airified in the spring, and I knew that they had started to change for the better. You could physically see the change, and members didn't seem to agree with that.
Oh, well, they were pissed because the last 3 years they've been bouncing their ball across the greens, for God's sake.
And so I had a green committee meeting in April.
Yeah,
I had about 20 people show up, not on my committee, just show up randomly.
Oh, that's never good.
To voice their displeasure and their concern.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Did they have like ropes and fire sticks and stuff that ready to take you out back?
Oh, absolutely. It was pretty disheartening to sit there and listen to that. I can promise you.
Oh, I can imagine. I can't imagine, to be honest with you. I just can't.
And I stood up for myself when possible. I also knew when to not open my mouth because it probably wouldn't have turned out very well.
That's a tough lesson to learn, but it's one of the best.
Very much. And it was that spring, April was when that happened. And after that is when everything really clicked.
So this was at the end of that first really bad wave, and you're starting to feel comfortable that you're seeing the change, but they're kind of fed up with it all.
Oh, absolutely.
So you knew that you were looking into the light now. You saw the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. And it wasn't just because of the greens at that point in time. It was a culmination of other things. Greens being the main factor. It was that we were taking down a significant number of trees on the golf course.
There you go.
Yeah, in my tenure there, we've taken down over 1,500 trees.
Okay.
And so we were taking down a lot of trees. We were doing stuff that they didn't like because it didn't meet their narrative of what they thought the golf course should be.
Yeah.
But in the end,
took down 1,500 trees
since 2018 to now. Yes, absolutely.
And I'm let me guess, they love it now. They love
it's great now.
Wow. We can see. Look, there's a green over there. Look at that. Oh, there's the clubhouse. I can see it now.
I had I'll give you a really funny example. So last year, not this past winter, but the previous winter, we had taken down, we had redone the cart paths on the golf course, and our board and green committee made the decision, if we're going to redo the cart paths, any tree that can affect the cart paths in the next 15 to 20 years, that we cannot move the cart path away from. If it's a really good oak tree or something that we can move it around, then we'll move it. But if we can't, then we're going to cut them down.
Oh, good for them.
So we ended up taking
when
down.
it affects their potential pocketbooks, it makes sense to get them down.
Absolutely. So for that project, we subbed out to our tree company, and they took down 208 large trees.
Wow.
So to follow that up, everything's finished. The next winter, we've had some rain, and the golf course is, typically very wet in the winter because Bermuda grass on the fairways is dormant.
Right.
And I had some people say, wow, it's not nearly as wet anymore as it used to be. We can actually drive off the cart path the day after getting rain.
Uh-oh.
And I said, yeah, imagine that. You cut trees, and you get sunlight and airflow, and what happens?
Yeah, basics, water, air, and light,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's go back to that spring after the witch hunt was over. But you were starting now to see the beginning of all the work that you did. Your investment was starting to pay off after 3 years of ripping the daylights out of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we could tell by the root density that we had. We could tell by the Thatch Cake had all but disappeared.
I'm loving that name, by the way. Now I love hearing you say it. I've been saying it for years.
It's a perfect representation of what
it was.
It
a Thatch Cake.
And so it's all but disappeared, but that organic that's still there is still not functioning, as efficient as it can. Yeah. It's still kind of heavy, still kind of spongy, still holding more moisture than we wanted. But we knew that they're close. Okay, that we're almost there. And that summer, following summer, they were great.
Yeah,
very.
Had you been putting granular organics down?
What do you mean granular?
Organic fertilizers.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
So you meal products? What were you using? I mean, I don't need a brand name, but
so it was. We were putting down. There's a product it has blood meal, bone meal.
Okay, so a meal product. Yeah,
meal products, organics. There's one that I've been using that's an 8024. So you're getting that K.
Yeah.
But you're getting a tiny bit of nitrogen, but it's all organic.
I don't know if it can be all organic at that higher rate, but
and it may not be, there may be a little urea in there.
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, the 24s would be hard. It's hard to get 24% potassium on an organic.
Well, no, I agree with that. I'm just saying the nitrogen sources were.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Well, so at least you're feeding the soil is where I'm going. So that's really the point. So you got some liquids, you're throwing some molasses, you're probably throwing some other goodies out there, but you're putting some volume down. And I talked about this last week. That becomes the pounds per 1,000 versus simply the ounces per 1,000, and you're going to make a bigger change. Did you ever have in your head, or did anybody ever say something to you like, you're trying to get rid of organic, why are you putting organics down? Did that ever come across the table or a thought?
That was a thought. The thought was, why are we putting organics back down if we're removing organics? And
right.
And there were some discussions in that. With my rep who had me doing this.
Yeah. What did he tell you?
With the soil scientist that we were using.
Oh, good.
And so it was, you're affecting the bad organics with the good organics.
Okay, that's a good way.
And so it's very simplistic, but we are targeting the good microbial activity to eat the bad organic that's there.
And that's exactly what happens. I mean, that's how I answer that too. Yeah.
To attack it.
No, they'll eat it. They'll literally digest the lignous. So the layers of your thatch cake is lignous thatch, and the reason why we would put down carbon-based materials is because it quickly feeds the microbial populations that are always there, but they're not going to be able to eat that lignous material. I mean, like I said in the academy the other day, a majority of the microbes that we're dealing with only live for 20 minutes. The analogy I made is that them trying to chew that thatch is like you and me eating a pencil. We can eat a pencil, it's carbon, but it's not going to be like, the bacon and eggs and toast that I had for breakfast.
Right.
So there is, it's a question that I've gotten for 37 years of my career, and it's a good question. It's one that I think needs to be explained better, and obviously somebody must have, or your intuitiveness helped you understand that what you were doing is providing available food for microbes, whereas that lignous thatch cake was not available food. So you actually speeded up the digestion process and the breakdown of that thatch in what you're doing. You may not have known it at the time, but you probably know it now. You've seen it. You're a living example. I love this story. I think it's great.
But I'll tell you something too that was really eye opening. Is so, and this was my first time ever using a product similar to yours that we talked about the other day. But not the summer after the witch hunt, but the next summer. We typically aerify in early June on our bent grass to get them prepped for the summer.
Right.
In the heat here in the transition zone. And my assistant had said, "Hey, there's this product, and it has mycorrhizae in it."
There you go.
And he said, "Let's try it."
What's mycorrhizae? What is it?
I knew what it was. I just I'd never put it down. And so it was not yours. It was a different product.
There's a lot of good ones
at the time. And
ours is best, but yeah.
So I said, okay. And so we put it down. And after we had aerified, and our greens were grown back in like 6 days.
Yeah. You put it into the holes.
We did. We did. And I thought, well, there's something to this.
Yeah.
We've never healed this fast at aerification.
It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, in all fairness, though, you had already gone down that road pretty far. So you probably would have been healing fairly quickly because of all the stuff you had done up to that point. But mycorrhizae is I think it's magic. I mean, it's just, it'll grow roots very quickly. And man, when you see those going into aerification holes and how quickly they heal the holes. I told this story at the academy, but we were manufacturing another company's product, and when they left our business, my business partner came to me and said, "Hey, why don't you do this?" And I'm like, I don't think I believe in bugs in a jug kind of a concept. And he went down through all the reasons to do it, and we started playing with it. And man, the things that we saw so quickly, the healing effect and the ability to root sod into the ground, planting trees and shrubs, because we're using both endo and ecto mycorrhizae. But yeah, like I said, you probably would have gotten fairly, much better recovery than you had in the years prior. But I'm willing to bet that the mycorrhizae even pushed that to a faster, point than you would have had on your own.
And I'm sure they did. I mean, the results were pretty astounding.
So let me ask you this, Zac. So you went out and you were just ripping the daylights out of those first 3 years. What's the aerification program today?
So that fall, after that summer, where we knew we had turned the corner, we changed our aerification program.
So what?
And in the fall, in September, the week of Labor Day, where we used to pull cores, now we do solid tines.
There you go.
And so we do solids, and I've gone anywhere from a 1/2 inch solid to a 3/4 inch solid in the first week of September on A1, A4 bent grass in South Carolina.
Wow.
And guys go 3/4 inch. That's crazy. And we've had no issues. And I will tell you this, you always hear about guys or people having a hard time getting sand into holes when you top dress after aerification or during the process. So with solids, our process, we top dress first and
it down
and you push it in.
Yeah.
And when we do solid tines, we can, like, for example, last fall in September, we did 5/8 inch solid tines on 2x2 spacing. And we went down deep. We went down about 4 inches.
Wow.
And
hit any rocks?
We didn't. No, no.
That was another place.
Fortunately, these greens are built to spec, so we didn't
Oh,
hit any rock.
perfect. Good.
Uh, but on we only had 16 greens because we were in the process of a construction project on 3 holes that were
Gotcha.
brand new greens. But on 16 greens, we used 100 tons of sand.
Wow. And you got it all in.
All of it.
Wow.
All of it.
So so obviously the routing is following those holes now. I
Right.
can imagine that your routing is substantially better than what it was when you got there.
Absolutely.
You're down from what I forgot the number. You were at 6 pounds, 8 pounds of N when you
A little over 6 to down
6
down to 2.5 now.
could you actually cut it back, do you think? I mean, not that I'm asking you to do that, but
I think this year we are probably going to cut it back.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, they've been pretty lean this spring.
Yeah,
You asked about aerification, and so our aerification in the spring is we do a double 5/8 inch core.
Okay.
We go 2 directions.
So you're still
and-
getting aggressive in the spring.
Correct.
Do you
And
think you can get to a point at some point where you don't pull a core?
I would love to. I think just that A1, A4 being such a heavy thatch
Yeah,
producer.
I got you. I hear you. I mean, you know that better than anybody. But it goes back to the question: is do you really want if your organic matter now is good organic matter versus the thatch cake? Do you really want to pull good organic matter out, or do you just want to let microbiology do its magic on it?
No, I agree. I do think that there's something to be said for
Yeah.
that, and we may try that next year to see how it goes.
What are the members saying now? What was the change like after that first when they wanted to hang you and to the next summer? I'm sure it sounds to me like even that summer right after that incident, playability got pretty good.
Yeah, they were much better. They stayed firmer. We were able to keep speed on them.
Yeah.
And people have been much happier. I'll give you an example. This winter, we kept greens consistently at a minimum 11 and a half, pushed over 13 some if we needed to speed them up.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of people say, we've never seen the greens this fast for this long.
Let me ask you this, Zach. When you got there and you had a thatch layer, a 10 layer thatch cake on there, and a ball came into that green, what happened? What was the playability like of that surface?
Just splatted.
And now that you've got I looked at that picture. I mean, you don't have less organic matter. In fact, I would probably contend, at least from a number standpoint, you have more organic matter. You have a deeper organic profile, but it's firm and the ball's not splatting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Amazing
I mean,
how that works, right?
It's amazing, and the rooting and density you get through that.
Yeah,
it's great.
I mean, this is, obviously, when you and I first talked, I'm like, wow, this has got to be a podcast. But I've been saying this, I've seen this many, many times, obviously, over my years. But, I show that picture of of what looks like your profile now, a really good organic profile and a fairly deep organic profile. And I show that to superintendents, and most of them say, no, I don't want that. I'm going to pull that out. But it's firm, it plays, you've got roots. I mean, it's the ideal environment because it's the perfect playing condition, and you probably have much better water management. I didn't even ask you this, but I can only imagine that you're probably not pulling hoses as much as you used to.
No, not at all, not at all. And we've really gotten our greens dialed in with water management.
Yeah,
and our deep and infrequent overhead watering based on that.
Wow. What a concept.
Yeah, it's amazing. That concept actually works.
I feel like this has been completely self-serving for me, because after having met you and then you showed me all that stuff, I'm like, oh my God, that's all this crap that I've been saying for all these years. You're actually living it, and I don't even know you, for God's sake. I mean, it feels like a setup, but I can promise anybody listening that you can look Zach up. He's a real superintendent. I didn't make him up as much as I would like to, but it's funny because I've been seeing these kind of stories over and over again. We brought many of folks on the podcast that, we love to hear this story. And, I can only imagine that, from a very personal standpoint, you're probably sleeping better at night, aren't you? I mean,
100%.
do you have
Sleeping.
kids?
Wait, I do not. No,
Okay.
my wife and I don't have children. So,
All right. But if you did, they would probably be happier now that daddy's home and he's not like angry and miserable anymore, and your wife is probably
my
that way.
wife's a lot happier that I'm
Yeah,
not angry
exactly.
anymore.
And the dog is probably happier. Yeah. I mean,
Well, he definitely was. We had to put him down right after Christmas this year, but he definitely was happier.
That's
yeah,
horrible.
that's all right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you see where I'm I'm being
Oh,
stupid,
I get it.
but I mean, it just, when you see, I mean, this is a tough business, man. I mean, and we create a lot of our own problems. And quite honestly, we created the Thatch Cake. I mean, this was man-made. I mean, we created, our industry taught us that. That's what we learned. But I'm seeing this more and more, guys at your age and your level of experience, intuitively enough to know, are intuitive enough to know that this isn't right. There's something wrong here. And the fact that you picked up on that, day one from when you started at Spartanburg, that's just, that's a great story, dude. I mean, it's a great testament to where you are in the industry, and I can't imagine that the members aren't just thrilled to have you there now.
Yeah.
I mean, they may have wanted to kill you at one point, but
things are a lot better now.
yeah. Did you get a big raise? Did they give you a big bonus or anything? I mean, like some love, a new truck or anything, or extra.
I mean, they did a little stuff. They did a few things.
All right, good. They should.
So it was good. And Joel, I'll say this too, kind of in conjunction with the biological soil management was another key was just light top dressing all the time.
Well, think about, I mean, really, as I've always said, I mean, what's the most important nutrient in turf? It's oxygen. And
Right.
that light top dressing, especially on the surface, is keeping the ability of air to move into that profile to feed microbes. And the other thing that's so incredibly important is having that. What you did was humified the soil. You digested lignous material and turned it into humus. And what that does is it manages moisture much more consistently. And without that moisture, you can't keep microbiology continually moving forward. So you've completely changed. You actually grew soil is what you did. Obviously you grew turf, but think about it. You actually grew soil. And that's, and when you look at that profile, like I said, I showed it yesterday at an academy and down in Florida, and they're all like, wow, that's really pretty cool. And it's like, yeah, well, it's, and I was there with Marshall Evans, and he goes, yeah, Zach's going to be on the podcast soon. So listen, just pay attention. And when he shows up, take a listen. So I hate to tell you this, but we are pushing an hour, and I don't want to keep you. And but I could talk to you about this, and we might have to do this again. I could talk to you about this for a long time. I'd love to come down next time I'm in the area. I'm gonna look you up and give you a holler, and I want to stick a probe into your greens.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Anytime.
What's it smell like? What's it feel like? I mean, is it good?
It's it doesn't really have a smell.
Good.
I mean, I smell it. It doesn't really have a smell, but the texture of it is amazing. It just crumbles.
It crumbles. Yeah. I'm telling you, man. I think I just found my next academy teacher. I think you could do this for me. I think you could get in there and just tell your story, because this is what we've been talking about for 37 years is, generating a biological profile that digests thatch and turns it into a playing surface that works. And you're a testament to that story, and it's a great story. I love it. I'm thrilled.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. The results speak for themselves.
They do.
It's hard to argue with that.
Can you teach this to your guys? The guys that you are working for you? Are they seeing what you did?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they excited about it?
They are. They are. I mean, some of my longest tenure guys have been there 20 years, and so to see them and how the greens are now, they still have that mentality that when we go mow, the greens need to be cutting a lot of grass and they need to be green all the time. I'm like, no.
No,
we don't care about that. We care about root health and
we
the
want
soil.
roots and playability and firmness
right.
and all that kind of stuff. It's so funny because I say this at my classes, 10 years ago and maybe even 5 years ago, most of the, I might have 40 superintendents in the room, and probably more than half of them never even understood any of this. But now, everywhere I go, I mean, yesterday I was in the middle of Florida, and I mean, there was more Zacs in the room. I mean, it was really just, it's so, I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been beating my head against the wall for a long time. I've been a punching bag for academia who says this can't work for a long time. And then I get to a class and I meet you and guys like you that say, I've been doing this, and it's working. And one thing I would say to you is that I really do think you can reduce, not eliminate, but you can change your aerification. I don't think you probably need to core anymore. I think just solid tines, needle tines, spiking. Play with that. I mean, obviously you know better than I do, but I think you can get to a point where with that humus that I saw that picture of, I think you're going to be at a point where your members don't ever have to see holes again. And again, that's relative, and it's your call. But I say that because I'm seeing superintendents all over the country that are moving away. Now, obviously, air is the most important nutrient, so you got to keep poking holes, and you get 40,000 rounds. You got bicarbonates in the water, you got sodium in the water. You got to do physical things and cultural things, but I think 30% removal, you don't want to remove that stuff. That's gold for you right now.
No, well, we're not doing 30 now. We're doing.
No, I'm sure you're not.
We're doing
Yeah.
18 to 20 now.
There you go. And you might even be able, that's all I'm saying is just
Right. No, absolutely.
push the envelope out a little bit and see
Yeah.
what it does to you.
No, I get it. So,
Bud, it was a real pleasure meeting you. It was a thrill having you on. I love your story. I wish you the greatest luck. It's just like I said, it's so encouraging to see young guys getting out there and making that kind of a change. And like I said the other day, I think there's going to be a lot more to learn in the next. I mean, you're young still, and you're gonna, the changes we're seeing in the last 5 years, from a education standpoint, you're going to be learning all sorts of stuff. So just keep your eyes and ears open, and there's going to be different tools and different ideas, but the basics of agronomy, you'll never be able to get rid of. You never want to get rid of. They're always going to be the basics, and you've got it. So I commend you and congratulate you, and most importantly, thank you for coming and spending an hour with me and talking about this.
well, absolutely. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. And folks, if you're not subscribing to the EarthWorks podcast, please do. We're going to find other people that are learning this, the truth of biological soil management, like we found with Zac. So, Zac, thanks so much. Appreciate it. I got to get your address. I'm going to send you a little swag. So that's a thank you gift. But thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Joel, again. Appreciate it.